Hi, everybody, and welcome. I'm Judi Glova, and today is day one of the Burnout Solutions series. And I have collected some of the best experts for you to teach you all about how to have your own burnout solution. I'm excited because today is all about awareness, knowing your strengths and your burnout blind spots, whether it's in your business, your mental state, your physical, spiritual. So let's just think about how we can let go of some of those habits and behavior that are holding us back. And I want to remind you that we are meeting every day throughout this online series in our Facebook group called the More Than Enough Women's Circle. I'll be live in the evening, so don't miss my daily recap and highlights. Plus, you'll be able to ask any questions because I really want to make sure that you can take action on the tools and the skills that you learn each day. So if you haven't already, head over to the More Than Enough Women's Circle. Now, before we kick off, I do want to let you know today we're going to be talking to Glenn Harold, and I want to tell you a little bit about him. Glenn is one of the most successful hypnotherapists and self-help authors. He has helped thousands of clients, including many celebrities, in a 25-year career and has sold over 10 million hypnosis CDs, MP3 downloads, and apps. In May 2011, he was made a fellow of the British School of Clinical Hypnosis in acknowledgement of his achievements in the world of hypnotherapy. Now, today's talk, we're going to focus on achieving abundance and success easily and naturally. So Glenn, hi, how are you? So great to have you here.
It's great to be here, Judi. I'm in southern Spain here, and it's a lovely part of the world. And yeah, I'm enjoying life. Life's good.
Oh, fantastic. Great. So I want to start off with the first question, which is, why do you think that burnout and overwhelm is such an epidemic these days, especially for our audience, our business women? What do you think is going on?
Well, I think there's so many opportunities in the world in this day and age. And I always think back to my grandfather who worked in a factory in London for 50 odd years, had no opportunities to do anything else, had a very one-dimensional life. And, you know, the main pressure was putting food on the table. And we still have that now. It's still the same kind of thing. You know, we all want to be abundant and successful. But nowadays, there are so many opportunities and things happening, and life is so busy. And it's said that we make more decisions in a week than our grandparents made in a year. So
Really? That's
we're
an interesting
bombarded.
way to think about it. Yeah.
Yeah, we're bombarded with information and choice as well. We have so much choice. And sometimes it can be overload. It can be too much. And you know, we sometimes run and run and run until we're running on empty, and then we're not productive, we're not creative anymore. So, you know, the way that I always balance that is through meditation and self-hypnosis. And if you use that in the middle of the day, and even if you use it for 15 or 20 minutes, if you just get into that relaxed state, you know, and you breathe and you just clear your mind and you get very centered and still, you know, and you're not thinking about work, you're not thinking about anyone, you just drop down into that state, you come back. When you come out of that, you're suddenly fired up again. It's like a reboot. And then you're more creative. You've tuned into your, you know, sometimes you can tune into that universal creative pull that's always there.
Absolutely.
You know, we just plug into that download and off we go. And whenever I need inspiration, I do that. I really tune into that. And it's amazing how recharged you can be in such a short space of time when you stop thinking.
Right.
You know,
Well, that's the very first golden nugget that I want everybody to remember, which is, sometimes it's just being able to stop and go into that clearing your mind space. And I think sometimes it's hard to clear our mind completely, but just being able to, you know, get more in that peaceful place of being able to slow down. Because if we're making more decisions than our grandparents did, you know, in a year that we do in a day, I mean, that's pretty startling. I'm curious though, can you give me a little bit of a background about how you came into this space of hypnotherapy? And can you tell me a little bit about your story?
Yeah, well, I had a very dysfunctional upbringing. I was the typical archetypal bad boy. You know, I ran with a gang when I was a kid. I got expelled from school when I was 15. I was a product of a dysfunctional home life. I used to run away from home when I was 12. One time I slept on a gypsy site for a week, and so I grew up. It was the tough school of knocks. It was hard. But I learned to survive in that.
Mm-hmm.
But that's all I did. I just survived. I didn't prosper. So when I went into my adult life, I was very ill-equipped, and I had all this negative programming and poor conditioning. So even things like simple things like holding down relationships or holding down a job, I just couldn't do it because I'd never learned how to do that, to live in a normal life. And so really when I'd always been a believer in the power of the mind,
Mm-hmm.
but it was when I actually discovered the tools of hypnotherapy. I really saw something there that was a tool for me to clear away a lot of the conditioning. And I realized that if I changed from the inside, maybe the world would respond differently, because
Mm-hmm.
it was bad luck after bad luck, but I was creating that because of the frequency I was resonating on. I
Mm-hmm.
was stuck. And it was like, I always say, it was like wading through treacle back then.
Mm-hmm.
So when I started to do the clearing, I started to clear a lot of the negative and conditioning and failure programming and sabotage patterns that I had running over in my unconscious.
Mm-hmm.
I then started to, take more steps forward, and life started to open up for me. And realizing that, I just then embraced it, and I cleared more and more. And
Mm-hmm.
I've done so much clearing over the years. I've done ayahuasca ceremonies that have taken me really deep into my shadow and cleared aspects of my luminous energy field, they say, blocks and things that we're not even aware of. And that have just freed me up more and more. So nowadays, I've written 7 books with major publishers, sold 10 million recordings, and I'm a million miles away from that young delinquent kid.
Oh, absolutely. But I have to say, I'm so curious, Glenn, what do you think, or who do you think put that idea in your mind, though? Because I had written down that, you had a belief in the power of the mind. Like,
Mm.
where did that come from? I mean, you know what I mean? Because even if you have a dysfunctional family, like maybe there was an aunt or a grandparent or something like that, that kind of instilled that in you. Like, where do you think that came from?
I never really had that. I didn't, I was saying the other day, actually, I just didn't have any good role models when I was young. I don't know, for whatever reason, but it was just something that was in me. And I think it's in everyone. I think everyone has that. Everyone knows that when they focus their mind, they've got potential. Most people are aware of that, and we have got that. But drawing it out is another thing.
Mm,
I did have potential inside me, but it was just dormant. It had just been pushed down and suppressed so much.
yeah.
Um, and I had a sort of lot of energy, but I channeled it in the wrong way, unfortunately. Back then, when I learned to channel it as a force for good, that's when life changed. And I really then kind of had a bit of a spiritual awakening as well when I got into my early 30s, and that helped. And, so having a higher meaning and an understanding that we're not just here to make money and pay our mortgage off. We're here to raise our vibration, expand our consciousness, and to do good, to leave a mark in the world as best we can.
Mm-hmm.
And that realization again took me onto this new path. And I started operating more from my heart and from a place of love and compassion.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was the transformation. But I think we've all got that. Everyone's got that ability in them. We're the only species on the planet that doesn't use all of our brain all of the time.
Right.
Every other species is operating at 100%. We're probably operating at 20 or 30%, unless we go into a state of meditation where we're really accessing the superhuman ability that we've got.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, so I believe that when you go into that, you access the genius.
Wow.
It's said that most geniuses, Michelangelo, Einstein, Tesla, and Paul McCartney, even, they came up with their greatest works when they were in that deep state of an altered state of consciousness, where they were accessing that
Mm-hmm.
universal creativity. And
Right.
everyone's got that ability. We all can
Wow.
create amazing things in the world.
Wow. And I just want to make the connection, like you said, like you were in that survival mode and it was more or less dormant, but there was something, there was some kind of spark, something that was inside you that just needed to come out. Maybe there was some kind of a, an opportunity or crack or a conversation or, something that really got you into hypnotherapy. So was there like a mentor or did you stumble upon a class? Was it like serendipitous? Like, like what was your first hypnotherapy type of experience?
I'll tell you what it was. It was that I was really looking for something, a way out of the mess that I was in.
Got it.
So, I kind of got to my late 30s and the only thing that I could do to make a living, sometimes I played in bars and clubs. I played my guitar in a duo, but I was driving a minicab through the West End of London night after night. And I was driving home to a tower block in South London in a really rough area. So it was tough times, but I was, because I was doing that job, I wanted out of it so much. So I had a hunger in me. And I remember driving home one night and I had this massive epiphany and it was like this spiritual awakening that hit me. And it was quite amazing because I'd never felt anything like it before or since. But I was driving home 4 a.m. in my minicab and I suddenly felt this unconditional love hit me. And it was like from a higher force. And I can't really explain it even now, but I remember tears were rolling down my cheeks. And, I was the kind of kid who was brought up. I never cried when I was younger. I don't know where it came from. I was just, still struggle with that one a little bit even now. And so I was crying my eyes out and I had this feeling of love and compassion and wanting to do good in the world. And from that point on, if I look back, that was kind of an epiphany that took me off into a new direction. And then I started to get a real hunger for spiritual knowledge and wisdom. And I was reading books like back then, I was reading Stuart Wilde, who was a brilliant author on the Tao. And he was like a London lad who was a bit wild himself.
Yes.
So I really related to his writing and the way that he wrote. And so he was a good catalyst. Then later on, Eckhart Tolle, I got into him, and Louise Hay early on. So I really had this thirst for knowledge and I was just immersing all this wisdom and knowledge through the books that I was reading. And I used to park up in London at 3 a.m. I'd be reading these books. I was waiting for a car. So and with the knowledge, when you've got knowledge, then you can start to make more informed decisions and you start to, make the right choices. You don't act, irrationally and that kind of thing.
Sure. Well, and I want to connect some dots also for our audience because chances are if women are here listening to our conversation, they have that same seek for knowledge, right? Because when we've had those dark nights of the soul where we're just like, I just want to be the best me I can be, or no, there's a better way, or there's just, an impact that I know I can make in the world, but there's just seems to be that the path that we're on is not, we know isn't working for us. And that's, when we hit those burnout moments, when we're really stressed out. And in some ways, I mean, it sounds like you had a real intense experience that you were able to just shift and then really seek it out. And I want to acknowledge you for, for having that focus of, I'm just going to keep looking until I find it. And again, too, our audience is that type of woman who is seeking for those answers. So I want to dig into now, about, meditation and hypnosis. Like, how can that really help us get into that place of sacred abundance? Because when we're in scarcity, right, we're in survival mode. And how can we use that to get us into sacred abundance?
Well, I think that, the big thing, when the Secret came out, there was a huge thing. Everyone got into the law of attraction. And I keep hearing now that people, have lost a little bit of faith in it because it hasn't worked out the way they thought it would. And I think, it was a fantastic film and it really woke a lot of people up to the law of attraction. But I think probably the missing ingredient, certainly for me, was the clearing side of it. Because if you've got failure programming or sabotage patterns going on, all the goal setting and manifesting work in the world is not going to get you to the way where you want to, because you're going to, be close to it and then you're going to sabotage it, or something's going to blow up just at the last minute because you've got failure programming or sabotage patterns. And that was the case for me for a long time. And I'm working on a book at the moment called Wealth is Your Birthright. And it should be. It really should be for everyone. We should all be living abundant lives, happy lives. But it's often that the conditioning, the karma, the baggage that we've got that stops us from being who we're supposed to be. And so through meditation and through self-hypnosis, you can get rid of those conditioned patterns of behavior. And I'll give you a good example of that. It was something that came to me recently because I'm still on that clearing trail now. You know, I've been on it 25 years. As soon as I discovered it, I immersed myself in it. But I'm still very much on it now. And I will be till I'm 90, till I'm 100. I'll still be clearing. I'll still be seeing healers because I know I'm getting lighter and I love it. I love that feeling of being who I'm supposed to be.
Right.
It's an ongoing process. It's peeling layers of that onion. You know, it's not like you go and have an amazing therapy session, then everything's sorted. You know, we're all a work in progress. Amazing shaman and healers and very gifted people, but I've never met anyone who's clear. You know, we're all on that journey.
Yes.
And it's that ongoing process. So, you know, so the example I was going to give you was that I remembered years and years ago, I was doing a meditation session recently, and I remember my parents having a blazing row about money. And it was really intense. And I was probably only 5 or 6. And I can still remember my dad ripping up money in front of my mum. It was like really intense. So there I am as a 5, 6-year-old. You know, what am I learning about money? It's a very negative thing that I'm picking up there. And so through this meditation session, I was able to go back and change the way I felt about it and completely process it and work through it. And it took me a couple of sessions, you know, but I felt I cleared it. And after that, I felt different. You know, there was a shift, and it was a subtle one, but I recognized that was not going to hold me back anymore. I was not going to have that negative association with money that I did have. And so, you know, we can all do that. You know, if you think of anything in your past, anything that's possibly sabotaging now, anything that's blocking you now, you know, in a state of self-hypnosis, and I'll send you my guide to self-hypnosis so people can use it and, you know, learn the technique. Yeah. And use that, go back to those seeding events, to the things that caused the negative conditioning in the first place, and just work through it. And sometimes just drawing it into your conscious awareness and reconnecting with the emotions you felt then, that can be the processing. You can actually process it through that. So it's so important to do that. Any kind of negativity that you've got lingering in your past, go back to it through self-hypnosis, through meditation, or sometimes if it's something particularly big or multifaceted, it can be good to work with a good therapist in your local area, one-to-one. There's no substitute for that if it's a big issue.
Right.
I've done that myself.
Yeah, I have a question for you, because I've heard that if you can release the emotion around it, it's like there's a million thoughts that are attached to an emotion.
Yeah.
Or a 1,000, you know, memories. So you're able to release the emotion. There's so many stories and whatnot that you can release at the same time. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. It's the emotion that is the, you know, the main cause of the abreaction that you have later on. Because, you know, it's, for example, if somebody has a fear of spiders, well, arachnophobia is the biggest fear in this day and age. It's the biggest one.
Wow.
If you think about it, tiny little spiders, it's an irrational fear, really, isn't it? But it's so common, you know, and unless you're in Australia where they do actually hurt you, you haven't really got anything to worry about.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's the number one. And it's often, it can be that you learn that fear. That's a learned pattern of behavior. So it may be that you saw your mother scream when she saw a spider walking across the floor. And as a young infant, you learn that spiders are things to be frightened of through your mother's reaction. And so it's very easy to clear that and get rid of it. So what you need to do is go into your unconscious, get into that relaxed state, cast your mind back to the seeding incident, which is the first time you experience that fear, and then go into it, you know, relive it, re-experience the emotion that you had then. And you'll find sometimes you have an abreaction, sometimes you get tearful and, you know, you can feel the fear again. But it's good if you do that because you're processing it. It's coming up and out.
Mm-hmm.
And just drawing that into your conscious awareness and all the things around that is the way that you process it. And it's
So,
freezing up. And then, I've had clients who've had chronic phobias. I had one gentleman had a fear of flying that was so bad that he used to have panic attacks as soon as he got on an aeroplane. And it was his wife that came to see me, and she was very frightened. But she picked the fear up from him. I said, well, would he come and see me? And he was like a builder, and he didn't believe in hypnosis. So he sat in front of me like this, and it was like, come on then, hypnotize me. But as it turned out, he responded really well. And they went off on their holidays, and the wife sent me a postcard, said we had a fantastic flight. He was smiling on the flight. She couldn't believe it. And then I bumped into her 6 months later, and she said, he's taken up parachute jumping and bungee jumping. So now, from going from having a chronic fear of being on a plane, he was jumping out of them.
wow, that's
So it shows
fantastic.
you how the mind can transform,
Right.
a fear into something that's so liberating.
So I have a very practical question, because I have a family member who is really, really afraid of spiders. I mean, if there's a spider in the house, I remember at one time she was so afraid that no one was home and she couldn't figure out where the spider was. So she left the house and stayed someplace else that night because she didn't want to go to sleep. Yeah. So the thing is that if I was to tell her that, oh, you have to go back and re-experience the whole experience of spiders, she'd be like, yeah, no. So how do you deal with that? How do you deal with that? Because I think part of the fear is people are afraid to go even back to even experience it because they're afraid they're gonna overwhelm. So I guess,
Okay.
how do you deal with that?
Well, one of the best ways, if the fear is really chronic like that, you can go back from a dissociated place.
Got it.
So one of the techniques I would use is to get the person to visualize themselves on a screen and see themselves with the spider.
Got it.
But feel it differently. So you're not actually in front of the spider, you're viewing it from a safe place.
Oh, good.
Yeah, and I build in lots of feelings. You'll feel very safe and secure.
Mm-hmm.
And when you get into that state, that relaxed state, you do feel safe and secure.
Mm-hmm.
You do feel comfortable, and you're in control.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing. You're in control of the whole situation.
Mm-hmm.
And again, say that to yourself. If you're doing self-hypnosis, say these things to yourself. In a therapy session, I'd be facilitating it. So I'd be giving the suggestions and making the person feel safe, dissociating them from the anxiety. And, but then at some point I'd get them to step into the picture and then they would face it, but only if they're ready at that point.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of, as a therapist, I've been doing that 20 years. So I kind of know when to do that with clients.
Yeah. That's such a key distinction. That's so important because I literally, have talked to her about it and she's just like, oh, can't go there. So now at least there's an avenue, there's a place of, and I think what's great is that you're talking about how, we can make them feel safe and have them feel in control because to your point, the fear is that we feel like we don't have control or we don't have safety, right?
That's a really important point. So if you are using self-hypnosis and you're facing a fear, just tell yourself you're in control at all times. You can come back out of the state of self-hypnosis anytime and you'll feel fine, absolutely comfortable. So really reinforce that, the feeling of safety and security. And on my recordings, I always use that a lot. I get people into a very deep state and I assure them they're going to feel very safe and secure. Really reinforce that. And people do, they want to feel that anyway. So it's an easy place to drop into.
Yeah.
And then, if you're facing the fear, you connect with a feeling of courage, because we've all got that in us. We've all, there's times in our lives when we've all been brave, there's times in our lives when we've not been so, we've all got that. We've all got that, we've experienced so many things in this life, haven't we? Because life is so rich and there's so many experiences that we have. So I always focus on their strengths and their ability to be able to do things which they've experienced before, but you just get them to come forward, those feelings, when you need it in the therapy session.
I love that.
And in control, yeah.
I love that. And I also love it because when I think about being in overwhelm or in burnout, chances are we don't feel like we're in control and we don't feel safe.
Mm.
So if we're, for our listeners that are dealing with, they're in their businesses and maybe they're not feeling self-confident, maybe they're not feeling like they have the ability to be affluent and, have abundance and have the wealth that they want, right? So chances are they're not feeling in control and they're not feeling safe. So what are some of the, what are the ways that we can clear that or, clear those blocks? What would you say about that?
Well, I was somebody, like I said to you, I had a mountain of failure programming and conditioning. My headmaster kicked me out of school when I was 15. He said I was the worst kid he'd had in the school for 10 years. So I had nothing going for me for a long, long time. And it was only through using these techniques, the clearing and working on because wealth really is our birthright. We all deserve to be abundant and successful. We really do. It's not something that's just for the select few. We've all got ability, and I'm someone who's average intelligence, average talents that has gone a long way on that, considering. So it's not something. You've just got to work on your inner self as much as you do the manifestation work, because that's one part of it. But if you're working in tandem with the manifesting and goal setting, you're working on the clearing side of things. It's going to be a very powerful force, because you're clearing away patterns of behavior that are no longer serving you and that have been holding you back, and you're embracing these new ones. And for me, that was what transformed my life completely. And I can't tell you, it was like night and day. And really, in the space of 5 years, it probably did happen quite quickly, but I was immersed in it. And I always use the analogy that if you wanted to build a good physique, you'd go to the gym, you'd work out 4 or 5 times a week. And this is the same kind of work, but you're working on your mind. So, use self-hypnosis every day, use affirmations, use mantras, have your goals printed out on your bathroom mirror, in your car. I used to turn the radio off when I was driving up to London and back doing my cabin job, and I'd be doing mantras all the way up there. I'm always in the right place at the right time. Abundance comes freely and naturally to me. I was working on that religiously because I wanted it so much. I was so fed up with failure and being broke and being stuck, because the world's an amazing place that we live in, and we live in an incredible age where we can travel around the world when we want. But you do need money to be able to do that, and to live a full and rewarding life. You need to, not be a millionaire, but just be comfortable, and to be able to work when you want to work.
Right.
And it's a beautiful life if you can get to that point.
So it sounds like in order for us to break through, or really to feel that sense of worthiness of success and abundance, it's really, and I'm maybe oversimplifying it, but what we've been talking about is, number one, you've got to have the conscious commitment. You've got to be able to clear those patterns, right? Because, like you said, the law of attraction is great, but if you don't clear out the blocks, out of the unconscious programs, the failure programs or the patterns that are running, it's like you're really not going to get very far, right? It's like driving a car with 4 flat tires, right?
Yeah.
So you have to fix the flat tires, or you have to get rid of the broken programming. And then, like you said, it's like surround yourself with those intentions and those thoughts. And I love the last part that you said, which is, just like going to the gym, you have a practice and you work at it on a regular basis, because it's not just one and done. It could be, right? You could clear some little things, one and done, but really it's a process that we have of being able to be committed to it and really see it through.
Yeah, think of it as like a holistic journey, and you're immersing yourself in this. You're working on clearing, as often as you can. You're working on goal setting, affirmations, doing mantras. And also for me, the other thing was, I started to get very fit as well. When I got on that trail, I got super fit, and, I stopped drinking I occasionally drink now, but I'm virtually teetotal. I'm vegan. I can't remember. I play tennis 4 times a week with guys 25 years younger than me, so it's all part of the journey. It's a very holistic thing for me, and and I was somebody that was, I was quite extreme when I was younger with drugs and acid and heroin even at times, and I can't imagine doing anything like that now. It's just so alien to me, but I did all that, and it was so different. So I went from that extreme to this extreme, and because I feel so good at this extreme, I just want more of it all the time. I want to get clearer still, and I want to raise my vibration more and just move forward and surround myself with lovely souls and have more love in my life, because it's so much better than where I was at. And I've got that contrast, and and it is. So I would say to people, just work on it on every single level that you can, food, exercise, mind, body, spirit, everything, because it doesn't. And the more you raise your vibration, the more I find the law of attraction works quicker and easier because you're clearer. That's another part of it. The goals that you set yourself and the affirmations are more potent and powerful when you're clear. And that's the thing. So it was slow for me at first, turning that corner, but the momentum has got stronger, and probably don't work as hard at it now as I did back then, but I get the results quicker and easier now because I'm clearer.
And I also think in terms of, because I could probably say I had my own survival mode, right? In terms of where I was in the beginning of my career and whatnot. And I can say that, like you said, being on that journey, it's when you notice how much lighter you are, there's less of that resistance. So you're right. The law of attraction works in the sense to me that you're no longer fighting to do things. Like you can put down the sword and things happen. You don't have to be the warrior constantly on guard, trying to, fight off all of the survival instincts and those patterns, but you actually are allowing life to happen. So more of the programming that you can let go of, the more allowing you have, and then the more allowing, it just seems like, wow, things are so much less stressful. There's less overwhelm. And, you can have the holistic piece. I also love of the wheel of life of, the physical, the mental, the emotional, the financial, whatever, you have on your wheel of life. It's like, you can look at each one of those areas and clear each one. And some of us are, totally clear in certain areas and totally clogged up in others. So I really love how you're talking about that holistic approach too.
It's the way, isn't it? And it's so true. We've all got our different things, haven't we, that we're working through. And but when you become conscious of that, then that's a big step forward. I think I'm aware that with close friends and family members, I can, because I've been a therapist for 25 years, I can see their conditioning and what's holding them back. And sometimes if they want to be helped and they're open, I can help them or point them in the right direction. They can go and get help. But others, it's funny how they don't want to be. They're kind of with their conditioning and they hold it, and it's like it becomes a part of them, but they get stuck, and they think it's life, or they think it's just bad luck. And I was like that for a long time. I kind of kept having bad luck and struggling and wading through treacle, it felt, and I expected bad things to happen, and it was self-fulfilling. But all it was that I hadn't cleared. I was just bogged down with this conditioning and karma. And I remember the very first ayahuasca experience I did, which is a really powerful ceremonial thing that you go into that takes you into your shadow. And I faced some family karma in that. And I was really in a deep space, and I saw my patriarchal downline in the rocks, like Mount Rushmore, the presidents, and I could see my dad and my granddad, their faces, and I was getting this message, carry on doing what you're doing because you're clearing the family karma. And it was so potent and powerful. And And after that experience, I read about that. I read that was kind of a byproduct of experiencing ayahuasca. And I didn't know that at the time. So it kind of taught me there's so many ways that we can clear, and so many opportunities that we've got to clear, not just our own karma, but family karma, things that have got passed down. And, we're sort of holding it, and it's holding us back, but we're sometimes not even aware of it. So when you go really deep with it, you can, and you clear these things, and then you're free. You're suddenly a little bit lighter, and life opens up even more.
I love that idea. And I also love for, thinking about being, wives and mothers and whatnot. It's like when you have children, you can think about your lineage, right? Like, what are you passing down, and how can you clear yourself so that you're not passing that down to your children, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
You're a dad, so I know that that's probably really satisfying for you to know that you've been able to clear things from your lineage so that it's not something that your children have to deal with, in your next life. So that's
well, I'm really fortunate in that I've got a son. I've got one son who's 30, and he was just out here in Spain, and he's a fantastic person. You couldn't have hoped for a son to turn out any better than he has.
Wow.
He's my best mate, and we have a great time. And and I've got two little ones now. I've got two little kids, and I had them. My fiance, she went back to the UK, and I had the two of them this weekend. And it was a really stressful time because they were both sick and ill. So I'm, really stressed with this. And, really when kids are ill, they just want their mum, don't they? Most of the time, so I'm kind of dealing with all that and doing the best I can and getting through it. And, I look at it as it's just another challenge in life, isn't it? And I'm helping to nurture these two little souls and bring them up as best I can. And, I'm not going to pass on the stuff my parents passed on to me, but I dare say there will be things that I miss, and that, none of us are perfect. We're all going to make mistakes, and with a little bit of knowledge and wisdom, you're hopefully going to avoid most of the pitfalls, and you're going to get most of it right.
Yeah.
So I look at that as a blessing. It's such a blessing to have it. When you're in the thick of it, and they were throwing up on me at the weekend, and I'm having to clear poop off the floor and all that kind of thing, it's brutal. It's really tough. But it's part of life, isn't it? And, when you come out the other side and you think, what an amazing gift that you're helping these two little souls through the world. And, on a soul level, I feel like I'm of service now. I'm of service to these two little lads, and I love it. And I want to do the best I can. So it's a beautiful journey. You've just got to always try and reframe it, even if you're in the thick of it. And sometimes I get caught up, and you get stressed, and this is too much. I can't deal with this. And but when you come out the other side, just see the higher picture, step out of it. And, they're trying to, all they need is to, for you to be strong and to be there for them and love them and show them the right way. That's all they need. It's simple. So,
well, I just love that we have run the gamut. I mean, in terms of talking about all different areas of clearing and being able to look at the value of self-hypnosis. And I just want to know, so for the businesswomen that are listening, if there's just, we've talked about so much, but if there's just one thing that you wanted them to remember out of this conversation, what would be that one thing that you'd want them to remember?
I think the thing is, believe in yourself. Absolutely believe in yourself. Don't let anything or anyone or anything you've ever learned stop you, because you can have everything you want, and you deserve it. It's so important to know that you deserve to be abundant and successful and to have all the things that, you should have. It's your divine right. And, I didn't believe that for a long time, but when I got that, life opened up. So just believe in yourself and know that you deserve it. And that's the same for each and every one.
Oh my gosh. Well, Glenn, I just love what you just said. And I can't wait for your next book to come out, because that just sounds so perfect. I mean, it just sounds great for this audience. But oh my gosh, well, bless you. And thank you for sharing all of your wisdom, your insight, and your experience. And I just want to remind everybody that don't forget to click below. We have a free gift that is coming from Glenn. And I also want to remind you that if you are one of those people that has the Backstage Pass, you also get access to his bonuses. So don't forget to go back to your bonus Backstage Pass and look at his bonus as well. And if you haven't had a chance to purchase the Backstage Pass yet, you still have time. And it's really our burnout solution for you, right? Because when you get the Backstage Pass, you get to download all of the interviews, put them on your phone, and listen to them whenever it is convenient for you. And you always have access to this great information. And, you know, it's worry-free, weight-free, and stress-free. So we look forward to having you do that. Now, a few other things that I want to remind you of is I am going to be in our Facebook group. I'll see you later there. And I'll also see you at our next amazing interview. And before we go, I just want to leave you with one more thought, that instead of burning the candle at both ends, let your light burn brightly, knowing you are more than enough. Most importantly, you can create your own burnout solution and you don't have to do it alone. So Glenn, thank you so much. And
Thank you, Judi.
so
My pleasure.
bye-bye for now.
Take care.